How's it going, everybody? It's Young here, and welcome to day 13 of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. We officially have less than 2 weeks to go. Before you proceed, I highly recommend you check out day 14, in which I finished up news for February 2015. In this video, I'll be talking about the release of Final Fantasy XV's first ever playable demo, episode Duscae, as well as plans for an updated version, Duscae 2.0. There is a lot to talk about, so without further ado, let's dive right into it. Last time we left off on February 26th, 2015, which was when Square Enix hosted an active time report dedicated to Final Fantasy XV in London. Next time we would hear of the game was a couple days later and the following month on March 7th, 2015. On this date, Square Enix held a Behind the Game Designs of Final Fantasy XV panel at PAX East in Boston, where two lead designers for the game shared a ton of information. Most of the information was stuff they had already talked about before, so I'm not going to read all this, but I do want to share two segments with you: the buddy navigation system and the relaxation and the Wiz Chocobo outpost, about which they had the following to say according to an article by website Gematsu. Buddy navigation system. Some of the staff working on Final Fantasy XV went on a road trip, and during the trip, someone was always making a request and sidetracking the overall destination. So the goal of the road trip is always changing, and that's been incorporated into the game. If you're walking around and a buddy notices something, they'll run off to it and call you over, for example. Sometimes this is served as a hint to clear a quest or a hint to start a new quest, but because these are requests, you can refuse if that's what you choose to do. Relaxation in a JRPG is about the towns, Hasmer says. We must make a memorable checkpoint for the towns. When you visit a new town, it has to have its own culture, the designer outlined on a slide. But at the same time, it has to be rooted culture, and you must be able to relax and get help if needed. In episode Duscae, there are two outposts. One is the previously revealed gas station. The other is the Wiz Chocobo post, which was revealed for the first time today, as well as Yoko Shinomura's new song for the area. A man named Wiz owns the post. He is a very passionate Chocobo rider, so he created the outpost as well as Chocobo merchandise sold at the post, like Green's flavored potato chips. It's not a Chocobo farm, but a place for Chocobo riders to relax. In the final game, you'll be able to ride Chocobos as well as rent them from this place. But in episode Duscae, that functionality is, of course, limited. There is also a caravan at the post, which you can choose to sleep in if you'd rather not camp. The negatives of this are that Ignis won't be able to cook in the caravan, but the positive is that the caravan offers an experience multiplier, but it costs money. So that's all new information at the time that I figured was worth sharing. Now, on the same date, a bunch of media outlets got a chance to play episode Duscae and record their own gameplay footage. Now, like I said in my previous video, I'm not going to show off too much Duscae footage since most of you are pretty familiar with it by now, but suffice to say that we were seeing more and more footage of the highly anticipated demo every day, all the way up to its eventual launch on March 17th, 2015. Now, keep in mind, only those who purchased Type 0 HD's Day 1 edition managed to get a voucher to download the demo. But the important thing is that a bunch of people got to play Final Fantasy XV for the first time on that date, so it was definitely a landmark moment for what was then nearly a 9-year-old game. Impressions of the demo were overall positive. People loved the dynamic between the main party, the amount of content the demo alone offered. There was a lot of positive vibes about combat, things like warp striking and whatnot, and people absolutely fell in love with the game's presentation, whether it be the incredible music or the beautiful graphics and artistic direction. Oh, and of course, Duscae marked the first time we got to see Ramuh in action. Sweet. So yeah, good times. Now the demo was far from perfect. Frame rate and camera were probably the two biggest complaints. There were also those who didn't like some mechanics, like having to hold down a button to defend, or the way characters felt sluggish or heavy at times. But at the same time, people understood that this was just a demo, and the purpose of all this was for the folks over at Square Enix to receive some feedback. In fact, it didn't take very long for the Final Fantasy XV team to start acknowledging and responding to criticisms. Over a month later, on April 28, 2015, game director Hajime Tabata hosted an active time report entirely dedicated to feedback that they received from fans who played Duscae. Now, website Gematsu released an extensive summary of the event on the same day, and as you can see here, the 15 team were extremely thorough in their research, making sure they could receive a rating for just about every facet of the game from every region around the globe. Pretty crazy. I'm not going to go through all this obviously, but if you want, you can pause the video as this scrolls down to take a look for yourself. What I do want to focus on is the list of specific criticisms that were noted on the Active Time Report livestream, which Tabata directly addressed. Gematsu's article has a long-form summary with direct quotes and everything, but this would take far too long to cover in its entirety, so instead, I would like to direct your attention to this Kotaku article, also released on April 28th. They did a great job with providing a basic summary of the list of criticisms and Tabata's response to them, so I'll be reading from this instead. So here we go. Number 1. The lock-on is useless. Lock-on doesn't keep enemies on screen. The camera doesn't follow them properly. Tabata agreed, noting that you could press R3 for a better lock-on option, but that the demo never quite made that clear. Things will be fixed. Number 2. The camera is too close. I can't tell what's going on, especially during battles and in confined spaces. Not being able to tell what's going on in the game is unacceptable, Tabata said, promising that they've got a lot of work left to do on the camera. Ultimately, we may consider allowing the player to choose from different camera distances. Number 3. Poor, heavy camera control. We'll make sure the camera is smoother. Number 4. The AI is dumb. Allies get in the way. Players say that party members get in Noct's way as they try to move around. For the final game, Tabata said he wants to get more feelings of camaraderie, bros broing out, so they're doing plenty more work on the AI, and adding a lot more of the types of bro interactions you see in the demo. The demo is just a glimpse of what might be possible, he said, so this will presumably become less of a problem. Number 5. The Jaggies, but the drop in frame rate is even more concerning. They're going to add anti-aliasing to fix the Jaggies. Frame rate, which they say was the number 1 complaint from players in North America and Europe, is a high priority issue, Tabata said. They're going to prioritize it during optimization. Their goal is Full HD, 1080p, and 30 FPS, but frame rate is more important to them than resolution. Smart. So I get that motion is realistic, but because of that, it feels slow. Heavy weapons will feel sluggish, Tabata noted. We are highly focused on footing or being connected to the ground. Immersion is a big thing for them, which might have led to these complaints. Tabata wondered if this particular gripe drew from people watching the E3 2013 trailer, which Tabata admits was a target, not a reflection of real gameplay, and thinking combat should look more like that. Number 7. Can you at least add a minimap or compass? That's the plan. They're also looking into a radar of some sort to show where enemies' allies are on screen, although Tabata won't promise that. Number 8. I want a dodge action that doesn't rely on MP. There actually is a dodge roll, Tabata said. That'll be your default dodge action. The warp dodge is what is in the demo is a higher level dodge. The normal dodge roll couldn't be implemented for Duscae. Number 9. A game that's all about hiding behind rocks and replenishing MP. Huh. That's one way to put it, Tabata said, laughing. I guess the real complaint here is that people had to spend too much time regenerating their MP, which Tabata says won't really be a problem, because in the final game you'll have many more options in combat, magic, combos, etc., and battles will be shorter, so you won't have to replenish MP as much. But Tabata said he likes the strategy of running away and recovering MP when you're in a pinch. It'll be about how you construct your battles with the available MP. Number 10. Battles are too difficult. No, battles are too easy. Japanese players said the game was too hard. Western players said it was too easy. I think the best solution is to include difficulty options, Tabata said. They're planning on a simultaneous worldwide release for Final Fantasy XV instead of releasing first in Japan and then in the rest of the world. Number 11. It's too monotonous. Battles felt repetitive, players said, both because of control issues and because they were way too lengthy. The dev said they're thinking about adding button remapping. The monotony is probably due to battles feeling long, Tabata said, adding that in the real game you'll have more options, so battles won't feel as repetitive. Number 12. The stamina needed for dashing is annoying. Tabata and Ofuji both agreed that this isn't really a problem, although they said that dashing distance and speed could be improved by eating certain foods at camp. Number 13. Players would like to see warping usable as a regular means for moving around. Until some part of February, this was actually possible, Tabata said. That was the plan, but it caused a lot of bugs, so they scrapped warps for regular field movement. All that said, Tabata noted that the final release will offer a lot more warp points, especially in battles. It will become part of your strategy. Number 14. Please let me cancel attacks while evading. Tabata agreed. I was actually screaming inside for this too. In the final game, you'll be able to evade mid-attack. Number 15. Lots of bugs. Ofuji, we're very sorry. Tabata, who would have thought you could get to Titan like that? For those who don't know what he's talking about in that last part, he's referring to a bug that allowed players to get past the demo's invisible barrier and explore outside those boundaries, allowing them to see new monsters and even visit Titan. Kinda hilarious. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's once again go back to the Gematsu article, which summarized a few extra details. After Tabata talked about the top 15 criticisms of Duscae, he proceeded by doing a bonus Western round, where he talked about two major criticisms from the region. The first one was that Noctis's voice sounds weird. Tabata's first reaction to that was, that, he sounds like Batman, huh? After agreeing that Noctis does sound strange in the English dub, he basically said that they didn't have time to re-record voices before Duscae's release, but promised that they have already found a new, better direction for the voice that's different from what's in the demo. The second criticism from the West that they addressed was that Cindy is too sexy, and that they also want a female party member. Tabata responded that she's not meant to be an erotic character, but rather someone who is energetic, outgoing, and active, and that they don't want to change the current concept, but they will also strive to moderate the character so she doesn't come off sexual in her actions or anything like that. In terms of adding a female character, Tabata felt as though that would disrupt the idea of a journey between four brothers, since adding a female would change the whole dynamic of the group, especially in situations where they have to camp and set up tents and such. You wouldn't really see them be themselves. However, Tabata didn't rule out the possibility of a female guest party member, about which he said that it should be interesting to see the difference between the guys being themselves versus when they're around other people. One example he gave was that you might see tents be cleaner when they set up camp with a female around. The active time report broadcast finally concluded as they shared some details about future plans, starting with Duscae 2.0. Keeping all the criticisms in mind, Tabata stated that he intends to release a patch for the demo, addressing some of the initial release's issues. They were still discussing internally if patching the demo would be feasible, but they were moving forward with the idea, with the plan being to release the update by mid to late May. According to Gematsu's article, confirmed features for Duscae 2.0 included the following: active cross-battle enhancements, camera and targeting system enhancements, additional combat actions / overall rebalancing and bug fixes, more joint attacks, the current demo has one, and in terms of triggering it, it might be different from the currently available one, possible dodge roll inclusion, the range of actions for each weapon has been improved, MP recovery and usage has been adjusted, like not using MP for perfectly timed evades. Titan bug will be fixed. There were also some features that were in consideration for Duscae 2.0, but hadn't been decided yet, including individual quests in which only 1, 2, or 3 of the party members may participate instead of all 4, as well as frame rate stabilization, although they weren't sure if this one can be added in time, since they were re-evaluating data and how objects are being rendered. Last but not least, they talked about what upcoming events we can expect to hear more about Final Fantasy XV. Tabata basically said that they wouldn't have sufficient time to prepare a presentation for E3 2015, with their sights set for Gamescom 2015 in August instead. And since they won't have any major announcements at E3, the hope was to do another active time report broadcast in late May, right before E3 and before the Duscae 2.0 patch was being planned for release. So that's about all the information that yielded from this active time report, and I think this is a good stopping point. So with that, I would like to conclude today's episode of the Final Fantasy XV Countdown Retrospective. Thank you for tuning in. Let us know in the comments below what your impressions were of episode Duscae when you first tried it out, and to be further updated on all things Final Fantasy, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out!